Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. Folks who quit their jobs on day one, what happened? Part 5. Bookstore for college. A bookstore that is not on campus. Most students use this type because it is much cheaper than the university bookstore. The owner was a second-generation Russian immigrant. I was paid less than the minimum wage and told to start right away by the owner, who also made me sign an NDA and a contract. I didn't. The next day was my first day. We were led into an old, musty basement that didn't have good airflow. From dawn until dusk, 18 guys were supposed to run around taking orders and organizing shelves. One exit was there, and the edges were sharp enough to catch anyone who wasn't paying attention. When orders came in, there was always a rush to fill them all. The girls worked the counters upstairs, and the boys worked in the basement. During a break, a guy brags about how much money he made this week. Even though I was poor in college, I had worked for a living before, so I knew my rights were being violated. I was proud to earn that small amount of money, but when I heard that, I stopped trying to do the job right away. A paycheck in the double digits wasn't enough, and that's what these guys were bragging about. What finally made me say F this noise was seeing the assistant manager smoke outside the doorway every time I went by that spot. Since I had a real job before, I was mad at how I was treated because I was different from the other students. But seeing that made me think of the scene from Final Destination where the jerk's cigarette butt lit the fire that blocked the only way out of that death trap. Even worse, I remembered a job where the boss wouldn't let us leave until a lost scanner was found. That guy who smoked seemed like the type to say, "We're locking you guys up here until time." By lunchtime, I was having an existential crisis. My friends and I saw Scott Pilgrim that night. When I told them about my day, most of them said, "That's tough, but you gotta do it." We had all worked in retail and food service up to that point, so it was normal to put up with crap for low pay. While I was already set on leaving, I don't think we were old enough to know that it was okay to do so. When I told my parents about the first day, they agreed with what I said. I was meant to be there again the next morning. Would have saved me time if they had called me, but no one answered. They never did. Keep in mind that this happened during business hours. I wrote a review on a job site that clearly broke their stupid NDA, so I went back to being a lib arts major without a job until I graduated. I didn't shop there again, and I hope I messed up their famed filing system too. Not the first day, but maybe the first 2 days of the week. I had been looking for work since I quit FedEx and the breakfast restaurant where I was washing dishes and making food overnight. I found another restaurant that wants to hire a DJ/musician to play music sometimes and be the DJ other times. I believed this was the best job for me. When I got to the interview, the owner asked right away if I'd be willing to work in the kitchen. I said yes, but only because I was being paid $11 an hour. This was in Massachusetts in 2014, to work in the kitchen and more for playing. That I should not have taken a small hourly wage for playing music now that I think about it. The fact that this place was owned by a lawyer and his ex-wife was the first red flag. For a week or two, I worked my music shifts and did kitchen work in between. It was terrible. I had to do the dishes again, and then I learned that I had to stay until 1 a.m. most nights after everyone else had gone home except him. Had to make food for the bar and clean up. That sounds about right, but it's not what I applied for. Next, I find out that they're paying me $8.25 when I get my first check. I tell them about it, and my wife tells me that they can't pay me more than the other dishwasher and that they can't pay me differently for the music nights. I was getting $8.25 an hour to play music, but I should have been charging about $100 an hour for a 2/3 hour set. The last straw was when the owner put cameras everywhere and watched from his tiny office, which was about the size of a broom closet. Some of the things he said about me were that I was talking to guests while I was DJing and that I was on my phone for only 2 seconds to change a song. Finally, that same night, I played acoustic guitar without a mic, and the other dishwasher would tell me to turn down after every song. Please quiet down my acoustic guitar. This biker guy comes in after an hour and starts making fun of my set and how loud I'm singing. Well, that's it for me. Thank you for listening at the end of the song I was playing. Told the owner I was done in the back. What a stupid job. I wasn't brave enough to stand up for myself when I was younger. Today, I wouldn't let that happen. Used to work for a small but successful company that helped the oil business. I mean that in every way, the owner was a tyrant, having a Napoleon complex, being rude to employees, and often yelling at people for silly things. I can't say enough bad things about having to deal with him. Swimming with Sharks is a movie you might recognize. To be honest, getting close to that level. I'm an IT worker. Even though he was a great manager, my boss put up with the owner and his wife biting his behind, insulting him, and other things for 11 years. My boss found another job in the end after working with me for 2 years. It wasn't a boast that I applied for his job to take over for him. I was by far the smartest and most experienced IT worker that company had ever seen. I was never even thought of, had to do twice as much work, and had no one to protect me from this little tyrant. I asked the general manager, why haven't you thought about me? They told me that they want to see how well I can run the infrastructure for a few months first. I told them I already did this in addition to working with clients. They should know how valuable I am to the company since they asked me to look into a problem in the fabrication shop yesterday that the proprietary vendor wanted $3,000 to fix, but I did during my lunch break. Also, I helped one of their clients with a problem that saved them $5 million in Gulf of Mexico repairs. I know this because I was at the meeting after the incident. I was now the only IT person at this company. When I got to work the next day after my old boss left, I told everyone, I quit, good luck. I called my old boss to let him know I was leaving after he did. We both agreed that we would not take any work from them. Afterward, I got a lot of calls from hired people and people in charge asking how things were done. I told them I didn't want to help, and they offered me good money several times to come fix something. When I politely refused, I was told I would be sued, etc. After I left, I sent them an email with administrative passwords and told them I hadn't done anything wrong. I kept a copy of this as a just in case. They can get to everything. They just need to hire the right people. They never heard from their lawyer. I thought their IT costs had gone through the roof. Make yourself happy, folks. Misery at the workplace is real. What's your worst HOA homeowners association encounter you've had? Part 5. In that case, my HOA is run like a dictatorship. The guy in charge, who, by the way, moved in about 2 days before he pushed his way into power, has been slowly getting rid of the members who don't agree with him. He does this by meeting with his followers in secret, which is against a lot of rules, and making new rules that the good members then break without knowing it and getting fined thousands of dollars. He is, of course, a generous man and offers to let it go if they quit their job. After a few months, he is now in charge of everything. A list seems like the best way to explain it. He doesn't want kids to play outside because of the noise, but because he wants to have parties on the paths in front of other people's homes. A lot of the time, he fixes up the outside of his house and then demands that all other renters pay to have their homes updated. Costs a lot of money every year. It costs a lot to park on our own street, and we have to pay for every car that stays there just for one day to come see us. Didn't really hurt, but he wouldn't let the ice cream truck in. I could keep going, but I think you get the point. Used to live in a townhouse complex. Anyway, as most people know, the HOA is usually also in charge of the outside of multi-unit buildings. This year, they decide that all of the units need new roofs. Not a huge deal, there are 100 roofs in this case. It was also smart of the HOA to set money aside for this. Then they call a roofing company to do it. The roofing company takes half down, which is a lot of money, maybe $500,000 or a few $100,000. The roofing company does maybe 5 roofs in 2 weeks and then goes out of business all of a sudden. Oh my God, are you kidding me? The HOA lost half of the money they were going to use for new roofs, and it's pretty pointless to try to get money back from a company that's gone bankrupt. I think the owner took the money and ran. But the roofs on the units still need to be fixed. The HOA then decides to charge a special fee, which will be around $500 a month for 4 months. They told us about it a month in advance. Besides, this isn't the nicest townhouse complex, so it's not like people have $2,000 lying around. They were able to finish putting new roofs on all the units thanks to the special fee and a loan the HOA took out that was backed by the HOA fees. Also, after that, the HOA fees went up by about $75 a month. My neighborhood has about 200 homes and no common areas that can be used. There's no pool, park, or usable common ground. There are only yards, streets, and homes. I've been paying more than $200 a year in dues to keep the street lights on and the grass in front of the main road mowed. There is a huge shared retaining wall between some houses, 4 stories high and about 1/3 of a mile long. It basically holds up a cliff in a place that shouldn't have been built on in the first place. The builders originally planned for those houses to become a condo complex, which would own the wall. But at the last minute, for some, as of now, unknown reason, they changed their minds and made a deal with the city that let the HOA take care of the wall instead. The plans still show that these homes are condos, even though they've never been that way. In short, the railroad tie wall that is more than 25 years old needs to be replaced with a stone wall, which will cost just over $1 million. The HOA wants to send a $5,000 bill to every house in the neighborhood because about half of the people there are either behind on their dues or refuse to pay them. There's nothing else I can say. To set the stage, I recently turned 30 years old. I'm able to save and invest my money, do not waste it, and have a good job. My childhood was filled with destitution, and I was never given anything in life. After the software company I had been working for went public in my late 20s, I cashed out and moved back to Florida to be with my family. When I found myself with nothing to do, I decided to engage in real estate investment with a close friend of mine. My relationship with the president of the HOA where I bought 2 condos began approximately 1 year ago. According to this man, who is in his late 60s, he believes that he is the second coming of Jesus. At the very beginning, he made remarks about being young and purchasing houses, and he questioned why my parents were not co-signing the loan. Or, must be nice to have a trust fund. Existing tenants were employed at both properties. There's still 1 out of the 2. In order to maximize the amount of money I make from renting out each property, my business model has been to completely remodel each property between tenants. It was a living H to work on construction. Literally everything was a problem. At 5:05 p.m., the contractors are leaving and the dumpster smelled. Having the accusation that one did not pull permits. You name it, the HOA president tried to meddle his way in. I applied for 6 different rentals and all of them were rejected. In spite of the fact that I was never given a reason, the board was more than happy to cash my application fees. I enlisted the advice of the attorney from my company. It took us 6 months and a lot of time that we didn't use in the courtroom, but we were finally able to get the books. Family friend of mine went through them and discovered that there were some inconsistencies. I'll save the long story, but many thousands of dollars and hundreds of wasted hours this idiot and his 2 crony board members were stealing from the bank account. On behalf of his own business, he was composing fictitious invoices. It was possible for my magician attorney to obtain text logs of them discussing the possibility of blocking my applications. Primarily, they wanted me to sell the property so that they could purchase it. Regarding the justice boner, we were successful in obtaining a significant judgment against him personally. He was subrogated according to the HOA's E&O insurance, and in addition to that, he recently listed his home for sale, the residence in which he had resided for the past 3 decades. In an effort to rub salt in the wound, I did submit an offer for 65% of what's being asked for, even though I highly doubt that I'll receive a response. What is the most enjoyable aspect? A few months ago, we made an offer to settle for a fraction of what it was, and we were even willing to include a non-disclosure agreement. At each and every turn, the idiot instructed us to pound sand. So, Mr. HOA President, F you! I won! You came out on the losing end for the stupid trust fund, baby! If you want to watch the part 4, click the link here. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many thanks for your support.